One attendee.
So do you want to give, let's give a couple more minutes and then maybe we'll begin, Ron?
Yeah, sure.
Ron, do you want to wait a little bit longer or?
One more minute. Yeah. Okay, we're going to get going here. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank each one of you for attending today. Having the right kind of security for your business these days is very important. And protecting bad actors from infiltrating your company and its data really can no longer be ignored. You may even be hit with a ransomware attack, and it would cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get your data back and your company up and running again. In this webinar today, we're going to go through what having layered security is about and why you need it. Our guest host today is Samantha Yip from Kaseya. Samantha handles our employee security and phishing training product called Bullfish. And we will be putting up a couple polls to get your feedback during the webinar and a survey at the end, as that helps us to make these webinars better each time. What we'd like to do is present you with the best material contoured to our clients' needs, and your feedback is very much appreciated. You can also put any questions you might have in the chat, and I will try to get to them ASAP, and we'll be sure to answer it. You can also use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen, and you can ask a question live if you so be it. And so without further ado, take it away, Sam.
Thank you so much, Ron. And thank you everyone for making some time for us this morning. I know we started a bit late today. I promise you we will still be able to end on time so that you can have your lunch break. That is my goal. And as Ron said, if you have any questions, we would love to hear from you. I'll try to catch them during the presentation, but if I don't, I will definitely be able to take a look at it as soon as we are done the presentation today. So don't be shy if there's any questions. So today's topic, of course, Ron had already mentioned on why layered security is like airport traveling. So we'll compare and talk about what layered security is and really how it compares to airport travel, and hopefully some of you out there are planning to travel. I know I really want to get back to traveling, so it's kind of perfect timing that we're talking about airport travel again. So today I want to go over a couple of things. This is the agenda for our presentation today. What I want to talk about is what the current threat landscape is. I also want to talk about how layered security and the concept of defense in depth can help you. I also wanted to go over the components of layered security and its importance. And of course, I'm going to talk about all 7 layers that make up this framework of layered security. And lastly, we'll go over on how layered security is similar and how we can compare it to airport travel. The current landscape that we are seeing is really an attack on small, medium-sized businesses. Human error is responsible for 90% of the cyber breaches that we see. We are also seeing an increase in phishing attacks and ransomware attacks. Phishing attacks works so well and is so cost effective that this is what cyber criminals primary choice is that they would like to use and have been using because it has been successful. Ransomware has doubled since last year, appearing in 10% of verified breaches. And you might have heard about a lot of cyber security breaches, a lot of security incidents in the news. A couple of ones that I have that I wanted to bring up to everyone here in the last couple of months are a company named R.R. Donnelley. They're a marketing communications firm, and they disclosed that at the end of last year that they had data stolen in a cyber attack that was attributed to ransomware. And they really haven't disclosed what information they have been that might have been exposed due to it. These are all different sizes of business. Another one that I heard that actually kind of shocked me was City of Tenino, Washington. They lost over 280,000 in public funds after a city employee fell for a phishing message that launched a business email compromise scam, where the treasurer fell victim to a phishing message and paid the cyber criminals basically a boatload of money, some without city council approval. And a business email compromise really is a type of a phishing email where they pretend to be someone that's trusted within the company. And obviously, this treasurer thought they were speaking to a trusted person within the city, and that is how that over those 280,000 funds were transferred to the cyber criminal. One of the other last examples of some breaches that you might have heard of is in Sacramento County. There was a data breach that was caused also by phishing, where it exposed health information and also personally identifiable information of its users. And because of the situation that we're currently in right now with Russia and Ukraine, it has been reported that we probably will see an increase in these type of cyber attacks, be it through ransomware or be it through phishing through our email systems, because those are an easier route to get to us. And how do we really prevent all this, or try to prevent some of these threats? This is really where layered security can help. There's multiple threats can attempt to crack into an organization's network basically all at one time. As a result, relying on a single basic security solution is ineffective, which is why layers of security and defense in depth is relevant. The current landscape that we just talked about has advanced to where multiple advanced attack vectors are waiting to exploit vulnerabilities within our applications, our interfaces, our networks, our devices, traffic, and users to damage business. And relying on just one basic security solution will prove to be useless against very sophisticated attack vectors, which the cyber criminals are using. Layered security and defense in depth are two similar but very distinct concepts. Defense in depth aims to deploy multiple security measures to address various threats, various threats related to the entire IT infrastructure. Layered security, on the other hand, uses different security products to address a particular security aspect. So an example of that would be something like email filtering. And because no security or tool or any measure is flawless or guaranteed, both concepts presume that the attackers will or have already breached different layers of the organization's defenses. The goal really here is to provide several layers of protection to identify and stop attackers at every stage of the attack cycle, thus overall enhancing the security defense system's effectiveness. We'll be focusing primarily on layered security in this presentation. There are three elements of layered security. And the first, it's prevention, detection, and response. So the first here in prevention, security policies, controls, and processes should all be devised and implemented during this prevention phase. And the second phase, and the goal of detection, is to discover and notify a compromise as soon as possible. The approach of layered security is that we detect the intrusion as it attacks a layer, but we have other layers in place if we can't detect that attack at that time, putting in kind of an extra buffer. If an attacker does overcome one layer of security, they have another layer that they must break into. During that time, in this detection phase, it is ideal and if we have a plan, it is best to catch that attack before they can go and continue to break on to maybe that second layer. Which brings me to the third element of layered security, which is your response. So a quick response is crucial for detection phase to be meaningful, because we don't want them to break through all 7 layers. And the reason we have those 7 layers, which we'll go into a little bit more detail in just a minute, is to give us enough time to catch that, to detect the intrusion so that we can respond to it, so that we can remediate it before it actually gets into our network.
Okay, Sam, I'm going to put up a little poll here for a second.
Absolutely.
This is not pass or fail, by the way.
No, we wouldn't do that to you.
Just give it a couple more seconds. Okay, by the way, if you answered 70%, you would be correct.
Hopefully everyone got it right. But again, it was a hard question. Ron threw in a trick question to everyone.
I'm tricky like that. Eh?
You are. Perfect. Perfect. I'll continue on. I'll continue talking about the elements of layered security. Still talking about those 3 elements, right? Prevention, detection, and response. Prevention is so important because we have seen that cybercrime has increased to almost 300% since the start of the pandemic. And I don't see that personally slowing down, because we are all still either working remotely or in a hybrid situation. And of course, with everything that's happening around the world, that's also an indicator that it will increase. But prevention here, this is because we are seeing everything that's happening right now. Can your organization afford to be the next victim of cyber criminal? I mean, this is a tough question, and these are questions that I know that I talk about every single day with customers. It takes on average around 228 days to detect a breach within an organization. The key really here is to reduce this time so that you can limit the damage that this intruder or this intrusion has caused. 228 days is a long time, right? That's almost 1 year. After a breach has occurred, it is on average that organizations take around 80 days to contain it. The longer the response time, the greater its impact. And most likely, the more information would have been stolen. So that information that's stolen, you'll never get back, right? It'll be exposed, and exposed credentials and exposed information goes into the dark web, which is, the poll question that Ron just brought up, because that's where that information is being sold and made a profit on for those cyber criminals. Now, this layered security is divided into 7 layers by security experts. The idea is that a hacker is seeking to get into your system, and it must break through each of these layers to gain access. The result is that you should focus on improving these 7 layers, so that it buys you time, either on the prevention side or the detection side. Let's get into these 7 layers. The first layer is information security policies. Now, organizations must adopt security policies that prevent unauthorized access. Having robust security policies help to avoid data breaches and raises security awareness within your organization. The security and well-being of IT resources are dependent on these very policies. It will assist you in raising information security awareness inside your organization, and also demonstrating to your clientele and your customers that you are serious about securing their data. So these policies include, system policies within your organization, or even organization policies for your employees. An example of this would be on acceptable internet usages. The second layer is physical security. Servers and offices, must be secured in the same way that you safeguard your house, right? With locks and security cameras. You want to keep your IT resources secure with methods like fences, key cards, badges. It also helps in this layer to monitor your employees that have access to sensitive systems. The third layer is network security. It only takes about 1 vulnerability for hackers to get access to your network. The goal must be to prevent unauthorized network access. So it's critical to keep all of the systems on the networks up to date with the latest security updates and patches. The fourth layer.
Before you continue, let me give you a live example of what happened this morning. One of my colleagues, a hacker got in through the CEO's login because he didn't want to bother with 2-factor authentication. So the hackers went in and set up they spun up 50 different cryptocurrency programs to, get to mine cryptocurrency, right? And this is going to be a $200,000 to $400,000 problem for the company. This is a live example, just happened, today.
Absolutely. And we're seeing more of that, Ron. We're seeing more of those people getting in, and they're planning the cryptocurrency miners. So they're using that, and it's definitely difficult to detect. And things like these 7 layers, we've only talked about up to the 3rd layer so far. It would help identify if someone is trying to break in. So multi-factor authentication, you already brought up something that I will talk about as one of the later layers, one of the layers down the line. It is definitely something that's recommended in anything. I mean, there are multiple different multi-factor authentications to, make sure that we identify whoever is getting access to the company information and the company network is exactly who they say they are, which is the entire key of that. And that can, that can save someone from a situation like that.
Rather be safe than sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which leads to, the 4th layer of security here. Now, the 4th layer is vulnerability scanning. So every system has vulnerabilities, but you can reduce the risk by keeping things like your antivirus, your anti-spyware, your anti-spam, and firewall software up to date. A vulnerability scan finds out if something is, outdated or risky, so that you can take action before the cyber criminals find those vulnerabilities and exploit them. I would also suggest here, doing regular network and security assessments as well on top of the vulnerability scanning. So an example of this, I want to say some months back, maybe probably 6 months back or in that time frame, Kings County Public Health Department, they actually announced that they had a security flaw in its public web server, and that flaw exposed information on some COVID cases that they had available all over the internet. So the misconfiguration in that web server that they had that they never detected, that they blamed it on a 3rd-party contractor, have apparently since been fixed. But it exposed a lot of data already. It exposed a lot of the patient's data, including name, date of birth, other health information, their address. Now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Once that information is exposed, you can't get it back. There's no way of protecting that back, right? That's a huge breach of privacy for those individuals. And that information gets fed directly to the dark web to be sold in the black market for people who are trying to steal identity, or take that information and do lots of different things with it. Identity theft is probably number 1 with information like that. So vulnerability scanning, very important, just to make sure that everything within your network, internal and external, looking at all those vulnerabilities, because cyber criminals, they look for those vulnerabilities first before they try something that's a little bit more difficult to break into your network. Now, the 5th layer of security is identity and access management, which Ron had already talked about a little bit with multi-factor authentication. Identity and identity access management, it restricts access to critical data and applications to certain workers and users, making unauthorized access difficult or hard. These are resources like multi-factor authentication and things like password management.
Okay, let's take a little second here and do another poll, if you don't mind. There you go. I'm gonna launch this. We'll give you guys 30 seconds or so.
And again, also no right answer for that tough poll question that Ron put out there.
I made it a little easier this time. I only have 3 choices, right?
Okay.
You need to have some multiple guests, you know what I mean? Okay, so everybody answered somewhat likely, which is I guess the middle road, and it might be because you don't know or not, but the real answer is very likely. Somebody just answered that. It's not. It's not if you're going to get hit. It is when you're going to get hit. And I know you've probably heard that over and over again, but we're in the industry, and it's really true. So thank you.
You're just stealing my thunder, Ron. That's exactly what I'm going to say in another part of this presentation when I finish it off. It's I think Ron read everything that I have written of notes that I want to talk about before.
No, I just have it ingrained in my head of hours and hours of listening to stories, seeing stories. You know, when people, you know, at the end, oh, it's never going to be me. You know, I'm not going to catch COVID-19. I'm in the house all the time, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. And the next two layers will reflect exactly what Ron is talking about, being prepared for the event of an attack, that it is going to happen, even if you believe that it might not. We don't know when it's going to happen, but you have to prepare for that to happen. So I will talk about that in just the next slide. I want to finish talking about identity and access management. So, I did mention that identity and access management, it restricts users from getting access to, company critical data or applications, if they shouldn't have access to it. So the resources that help with this area are things like multi-factor authentication and password managers. And they should be standard in every organization. I personally think that these should all be standard in every organization. An example of this is if you don't give your users a solution like a password manager, they're going to start storing passwords and managing passwords with their own tools, right? They're going to store those passwords on their laptop, maybe with a file that says passwords, or they're going to store it on a sticky note. It would be worse if they store it on a sticky note and everybody's physically in the office together. Those passwords are all exposed. And if you don't give them a solution to either organize their passwords or a solution to create difficult passwords to get into your critical data and your critical applications, they're probably going to pick the same passwords, right? The same passwords that they're using pretty much across the board. And this is how breaches happen. When those data breaches that we talked about a little bit earlier, when things like that get exposed, things like usually get exposed from data breaches are, usernames, passwords, or email address that's linked to those usernames and passwords. So when that's exposed, all those plain text passwords, all those passwords to get into a certain application are then being sold in the dark web. And chances are, employees are using those same passwords. So those passwords can probably break into multiple accounts that user has it linked to. So that's why it's so important to look at things like a password manager so that they can store passwords, and also create difficult passwords and different passwords for all of those applications, so that it's difficult to get into just all of the applications they have access to with one single password, but with very unique and long passwords for each of those applications. And even if they break in with a password, a thing, a tool like multi-factor authentication, that would even help them. That's an additional layer that would help make sure that the person who's getting access to that data or that application within your organization should be allowed to get that access. That's what multi-factor authentication would be stopping here. The next layer is, on the sixth layer, is proactive protection and reactive backup. So proactive protection really detects and fixes security risks before they lead to a breach. The goal of a reactive backup and recovery is to recover quickly after an attack. And like Ron said, if it is really no longer if an incident or a security breach will occur. It is really a matter of when, and I don't want to scare you on that, but this is what we're seeing every single day. And are you prepared to recover when the time comes? Having a backup and a disaster recovery plan, it won't make you secure, but it will allow you to recover and not pay any of the ransom, which I think the FBI had recently mentioned. Don't pay any ransom if you do get attacked with ransomware. And this is why a backup and recovery plan that you put in place is so important, because you don't want to negotiate with these cyber criminals. Just because you pay that ransom, it does not mean that you'll actually get access to your data back. There's no guarantee, right? Because we're already these people are not truthful people. So having a backup to go and recover from would allow you to not have to pay that ransom. I know I've been contacted by customers before, not customers that I've personally managed from an IT perspective, that had been hit with ransomware, and they came to me looking for help on how to purchase cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency takes a while to even purchase as well. So I mean, even if you're looking at paying ransom to these cyber criminals, it still takes time for you to purchase this cryptocurrency, and then to transfer it to these cyber criminals. Definitely not something that I would recommend. I would definitely recommend not paying cyber criminals any ransom and having a solid backup and recovery plan in place.
Yeah, really, the best strategy is to have a little local backup. You can buy a 1 terabyte drive for 59 60 bucks, whatever it is, and then have that backup to a cloud backup like our backup service. And then what we do is we periodically test the backups to make sure if something goes wrong, that your data could be restored. And you don't want to get into a situation which they call remediation, where you have to have the SWAT team come in and really find out where all the holes were, where all the ghosting little programs are, in your data. And, you can even buy ransomware program on the dark web now. You and I, if we wanted to start a business this afternoon, you go buy a program for a couple $100 and, start our own ransomware business. So these are things that are really critical.
Absolutely. I don't recommend doing that though. I know, Ron, you and I, we have morals. So that's not, we're the good guys here. So we would never purchase tools like that. Exactly what Ron had mentioned in terms of testing. The seventh layer of layered security is continual monitoring and testing. So failure to regularly monitor and test your backup and disaster recovery strategy is a major oversight. To keep threats at bay, it's critical to stay vigilant. Have a solution in place to evaluate your internal and your external systems for risks, review your policies, and consistently monitor and test your recovery strategy. Again, talking from one of the experiences I've had, when someone did get hit with ransomware, they never tested their backup, or their managed service provider didn't test their backup, so they were not able to recover from a ransomware attack, which is, definitely not good, right? Because it leaves them with very limited resources in how to recover from this type of breach. So exactly what Ron said, there is definitely doing continuous monitoring and regular testing of that backup and recovery strategy that you have in place. And that's all 7 layers of the of layered security. I'm going to go into why and how we can compare, layered security to airport travel. But I think before we get into that, I don't know, Ron, if you have another poll question that you want to ask everyone.
No, I don't have a poll question. I have more of a statement. Some of these things are just lazy thinking, right? And again, it goes back to, it won't happen to me. I'm only a 3-person company, or 10-person company. And right now what they do is they just send out, these unsecure items, they're looking for any little mistake. It's like a COVID-19 virus. It's looking for somebody to jump onto and to make sick. And that's what happens in the computer world too. And that's why it's important. It's a constant vigilant situation. I mean, it's not like set it and forget it whatsoever. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And these examples that I'm using, these were small companies. They were 1 to 5 user type companies, very small companies. They weren't very large at all. And the reason why cyber criminals like to attack small, medium-sized businesses is because they have the idea that that small, medium businesses don't have the tools, the security tools in place to be able to detect them. So for them, it's kind of low hanging fruit, easy, kind of an easy target, an easy way for them to make some money. So, why layered security is kind of like airport travel. In airport travel, your destination is your terminal. After checking in to your flight, you go through security. And in layered security, the destination is your computer, right? The cyber criminals are trying to get to your computer. So use an example of like an email. After an email is sent to you, the email will go through kind of system filtering, basically kind of like security for them, like our security check at the airport. In airport travel, your suitcase will pass through security, and pretty much if everything looks good, you're ready to go and you can go ahead to your terminal. In layered security, again, using our email example, your email contents will, to the sender, will be looked at. And if they don't look suspicious, the email will make it to the inbox for that user that we're sending it to. Now in airport travel, if something looks suspicious in your suitcase, the security person, the bag checker, they're going to want to take another look and review the contents in your bag to make sure that you can't go through and you don't have anything that should be thrown out or should be called security for. In layered security, the security bag checker is your antivirus or your email filter or your security operations center. They will be able to pull that email aside and inspect the contents. And if they find that they need to quarantine it, it goes to quarantine for another review before it ever hits the inbox of that user that the email is going to. And I know after talking about airport travel, all I really want to do is travel a little bit. But that's the presentation and kind of the conversation for today. Before I move the conversation over to Ron and how he can help, is there any questions? Any questions for me on layered security or anything that we've discussed today?
So now you all know everything there is to know about cybersecurity. I'm kidding. That's why you're here, right?
Well, perfect. I'm glad it helped.
Tiffany says thank you. Very informational.
Thank you for everyone for making time for me this morning. Oh, perfect. I think Mary has a question, Ron, for you on what process do you follow to test backups?
Oh, very good question. So we have on staff, you probably got an email from me about 3 months ago, an AWS engineer. And what he does is he goes into the different backups and he spot checks them, where he'll do different files, backup files on different days. And then once every 6 months, we do what we call a full metal backup, which we take everything out and put it back to make sure if that ever happened, we could do that in a real quick period of time. So yeah, we do incremental checks on an ongoing basis, and then full metal backups where we take everything off, put it back to make sure that if there's a bad actor event, that we can put everything back the way it should be, and you can start working. What's good about the cloud, having it in the cloud, is that we can actually put that back, to even home users. Right now, the landscape has changed More people are working at home. I don't think that's going to change a lot. And so we have to be able to keep everybody secure out in their environment, in their homes also, right? So that's basically the test bed. There's people above my pay grade that do that, right?
I think Mary has a
Question
follow-up.
is, what if the virus is in the backup, hiding? Clean the backup. So that's a good question. So there's something called ghosting, in which there's some companies, they might have a little virus of code sitting there for 6 months doing its due diligence, collecting data, etc. Right? So that's why we're talking about layered security right now. Okay, we have to make it as hard as we can for the guys, even if they get through one layer, then they can't get to the next layer. I'm going to show my age a little bit. It's like the beginning of the show Get Smart when I was a kid. He had to go through the wall, then the fence, then the thing, and in order to get to the phone booth to get down into headquarters, right? And that's what we need to do. We clean viruses every day. I mean, hundreds of viruses with our advanced security stuff and with their virus scans and stuff. So, um, in the event there's a virus there, we're probably going to be able to 99.9% of the time detect it and remove it. But it's that one open port, or it's that one mistake, like, the CEO, where he didn't use two-factor, or people get caught up into phishing scans. And that's where, Samantha's company comes in. Is we do one part of our layered security offerings. We call it advanced security package. Is has phishing training. Employee training for phishing scams, and also phishing emails. So, once a week at random, you'll get a fake email that's a phishing scam, and then the company's able to see who bit, who didn't bite. But during the week too, there's 5 to 7 minute videos that start training the people on the different parts of that on a weekly basis. And so throughout the year, it's being reinforced because science has shown that we only remember things for about 3 months. And lately, I've been remembering things for 3 minutes, but it's beside the point. So we have to constantly reinforce the employees. And I know it can be a drag. I talk to clients and they'll say, oh, but another new thing for the employees. They're going to come to my office. They're going to hassle me, you know. And the thing is that, of course, anything we're doing is going to be a little tough up front. But I guarantee you, if you're interested in that particular service and the rest of the advanced security package, just hit me up and I'll let you talk to some of the companies that are using it, and they find it invaluable. It's the questions and the things aren't a very high level IT. I get some complaints about, yeah, the CTO, he just thinks this is, can't answer it, right? Can answer it. It's too easy, right? But it gives you a playing field to go from. And if you're also interested, with today's event, we'll be doing a free dark web scan, which I will do for you guys, and I'll send it to your individual email addresses, and you can see for yourself what's out there. You'll be shocked. We had a major client of ours. I did their dark web scan, and our IT liaison at the company said, "What?" And that's where breaches start. It started as small as that, right? So this is why we're having this today, is because layered security is the only way to combat the bad guys. But you know what? It's a reactive service, because the bad guys are inventing things all the time, and they're being proactive. We can't think of the future of what somebody could do. I always get amazed at how talented these guys are of inventing new ways to get us, right? So I'll be sending everybody that dark web scan. If you're interested in more information on the advanced security package, just hit me up and I can go through that with you. It's fairly inexpensive for what we offer. and it'll be part of that seven-layer security that you really need nowadays.
Absolutely. And if there's any questions, feel free to let us know as well. And if not, we'll definitely give you some extra time back so that you can grab lunch.
Any more questions? Going once, going twice? Sold. Thanks for coming today. I appreciate it. And I hope to hear from, some of you soon. Once I send you the dark web report, just call me up and I'll explain what that's all about and what all those things mean on that report. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I hope this was helpful. We'll be doing it again soon. And I thank everybody for their time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.